How you doing? This is Jim Cardona, Cardona Pinball Designs. We were just making a video. This is like kind of part 2 of it, of kind of our process of what we do when we want to redesign a game. And I spent the whole video talking about just the first step, which was picking the games. And the video went a little long, so I split it into 2. So now I want to talk about the process. So now, once I have a game that I want to do, I've negotiated the license. Now, if you're just doing it as a hobby thing, you don't have to negotiate with anybody. You own the game, you do whatever you want to it, right? Just can't sell it, okay? And technically, you can't even give it away for free. If you're making it for just you, you're gonna take it to shows, you're gonna show people, you can do that, okay? Obviously, this is not legal advice, but this is my experience, okay? But once you wanna sell a product or give a product away or, distribute it in any fashion, you have to pay the license holder. Okay, so the intellectual property, since these are non-licensed themes, the only ones you're gonna have to deal with is the manufacturer of the game. So I'm using the name Black Rose. That's part of the original game. That's intellectual property. So I have to license that. Same thing with No Good Gofers. Now, if I had did a retheme, and again, if it was just for me, there's a lot of people who take older games like a Dolly Parton, and they'll retheme it into something else. You don't have to pay anybody for that. That's just for your usage. So then I get my license. Now I have a time limit, okay? So the license is only good for a certain amount of time. So standard is either 2 years or 3 years. Obviously 3 years is more expensive. That's what we end up doing, was 3 years with these 2 titles. Once that license is up, I can't sell them anymore unless I pay another fee to renew the license. So you kind of have to have all your ducks in a row of what you're going to do before you start that clock, right? So the first thing and the most important thing I do once I know the game, once I have my license, and this part could be done before you start the clock, is the design document. So the design document, and if you're a programmer, you're very familiar with this. Design document lays out all the specifications of what the code is going to do. So it's basically like the rules of the game, but it has more than just the rules. It has like the interactions between different modes, the scoring, the whole progression. I usually write in the design document some ideas of what the music should sound like for different modes, what the artwork or the animation should do, what the artwork should do. I write down all that stuff. For this game, for both games, the design document was about 10 pages long. So I'm describing the whole game from turning it on, what happens when you turn it on, what happens in the attract, what happens in skill shot, the scoring of all of that. And I usually do a lot of Excel spreadsheets with scoring so that I can balance it, try and get the game as balanced as possible across different modes. You try and think about, okay, which mode should be a multi-ball? Which mode should be single ball? What am I going to do for a mini wizard? What am I going to do for a full wizard mode? So all that stuff is all written down before I write one line of code. It's all right in the beginning. So then, once I go into my, and then here's another thing that's key to think about, is you kind of put on different hats, right? So since this company is mine and it's me and I'm a programmer, I kind of think like a programmer, but there's other things that I'm less good at that I contract out. So usually when I'm writing all that stuff down, it's good because I need to be able to give that stuff to somebody to say, here's what I want. Here's what I want this to look like. You can't just say, hey, draw me some pirates. They want to know, you have to give them some framework. So, before I gave my artist my concept for this, I sent them, I had already created some of the animations, and I took individual screenshots of some of the animations, and I said, this character looks like this, and then he hand drew them, right, in his own style to look like, so that it ties in with the animation. Right? So it's good to have all that stuff in your design document. Then what you want to do is kind of bid out those prices. Like if you're good at more than one thing, maybe you could say, well, I could do some of the voices, or I could do some of the sound effects or something like that. But think about how much time it's going to take you as maybe learning some stuff and not being as good at it as versus hiring a professional. So that's something to keep in mind. So then you lay out all these jobs. Here's what the artist is going to do. Here's what the animator is going to do. Here's what the music guy is going to do. Here's what the sound effects guy, the voice actors, this is what they're going to do. And then here's what the programmer is going to do. So now you have them split up into jobs, right? Now you can kind of look at and say, well, here's which ones I'm going to do. Okay, so for example, probably said this in another video, but like the music, we hired all, I basically just did the programming. We hired out the music, the sound effects. I did do some of the voices. I think I did the voices on Black Rose, the 2 characters maybe. But there's like 10 characters. So there's a couple of people that did more than one voice, but there's a bunch of voice actors in this particular game. And it's good because you don't want all the characters to sound like you. That's just weird, right? So you want to have people's different takes on different things. So then I wrote the code. Once you get it to a where it's a pretty good and pretty playable game, then you're going to take that to beta. And it's good to have people who are willing, they have the machine and they're not, they're not the type that are going to start spreading all kinds of internal information. You may need to sign them onto a non-disclosure agreement, depending on, how close of friends they are and such. But what we did with my company was we did a public beta. Okay, now like a company like Stern or American doesn't do that. They just have in-house beta, and they get it to production level, and then they release. Whereas since my company was a startup, and this is part of the point of me making these videos, you don't know who I am. So I said, well, we're going to do public beta. Okay, it was risky, but I felt pretty good about the level of quality of the game at that point, and I'm willing to make changes, right? So when we were in public beta, we put machines out on location in different places, and we took them to shows. So Gofers was out on location and in shows for about 2 years before we started selling it. Black Rose was out in public location and at shows for over a year before we started selling it. So, we got tons of feedback. There's a lot of people that were walked up, and sometimes the feedback is just like, I don't really understand what I'm supposed to be doing here. And so then, of course, they're not telling you, they're telling you the problem, they're not telling you the answer. But then you have to figure out, well, how do I make them know how to do that? Do I need more voice call outs? Do I need better animations? Do I need more instructions in the attract mode? So different things. Sometimes things just don't work. Sometimes you get crashes. You have to have your software that you write should have good log files. It should have good reporting structure so that when something goes wrong, you can just say, okay, just download the log file, send it to me, and I'll fix it. Okay, so we had to write all of that stuff, all this, the menus, the testing menus, everything. So that's kind of my whole flow and process. Obviously, the final step is marketing, which, and I think I said this before, it's one of my weak spots. So I'm trying to make these videos to help people know the company, learn about what we're trying to do, and hopefully that this will help for marketing. But definitely contact us. We're available for questions at any time. If you're interested in working with us, partner with us, you want to do something, again, we subcontract probably I would say 60% of our work right now. So definitely, we're interested in partnering with people in the industry as well.